5.8, conference with real property negotiators. Government Code Section 54957, and public employee discipline, dismissal, release. Action, Government Code 44591, adoption resolution 2122-23 to release and or reassign probationary teachers non-reelection. Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, WSTA, CSEA, and management. Government Code Section 48918, student discipline, case number 2022-05S. 5, public employees superintendent, progress on district goals. Do you have any public comments regarding our closed session items?
No public comments received.
If not, then we will adjourn to closed session and come back at approximately 5 p.m.
This is the agenda. Do you want it?
Oh,
Or can I have it? I'm just-
Okay.
I'll take it.
But I still are going to come back.
You are gonna do it.
Reconvene an open session at 5:27 PM on February 25th, 2022. So announce, pledge of, and then we will open up, normally have roll call. We're gonna do roll call again. So trustee Pizzotti,
Here.
I'm present. Vice President Kirby Gonzalez. Here. Trustee Barnes.
Here?
And Clerk Venegas is not with us. With that, I am going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and may I ask Mario Miramontes to
Miramontes.
lead us in the pledge.
My favorite last name.
I know.
It's the best. Wait.
1, 2, 3.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Few announcements of actions taken in closed session is Government Code Section 54956.8, conference with real property negotiators, direction provided, information received and direction provided. Government Code Section 54957, public employee discipline dismissal release. Action specifically on Government Code 44591, adoption of resolution number 2122-23 to release and or reassign probationary teachers non-reelection. The board met in closed session to discuss Government Code Section 54957B1, public employee discipline dismissal release. The board took the following action in closed session with a roll call vote where 4 voted yes and Clerk Venegas was absent. To adopt resolution, so resolution 2122-23 was adopted, non-reelecting one probationary teacher to take effect at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. So Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, WSTA, CSEA, and management. Information received. Government Code Section 48918, student discipline case number 2022-05S, information received, and this will be a roll call vote later. And item 5, public employee superintendent progress on district goals, not discussed. So we are going to move on to approval of the agenda items. Are there any changes to agenda? I was going to change it, so you're staying, right? Yeah, okay. No, any other changes
Sorry.
to the agenda item?
No,
No? You're saying?
I just, yeah.
Trustee Barnes, it feels like you,
No, I'm good. I'm,
okay.
Yeah.
If there are no changes to the agenda, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Trustee Pizzotti moved. Can I get a second?
second, I'll second.
Trustee Barnes seconds. Roll call. Oh, do I have to do a roll call vote? Because we're in person. Actually, all of it says aye.
Aye.
Hi.
No votes?
A long time.
No votes? Aye, we have
Wow.
unanimous I vote to approve the agenda. Item J, communications and celebrations, no communications and celebrations. We're going to move on to associate reports. I understand that due to the rescheduling of the board meeting, as the student board member is unable to participate. So we are going to move on to CSEA report. Do we have Daniel Gandara on?
I don't show that Mr. Gandara has logged on as of yet.
Okay. So we will wait. If he comes back, we will open the floor back up for the CSEA report. Did we receive an email or note, Superintendent Hildreth?
I spoke with Mr. Gandara earlier this week. He said he was aware of the meeting would be on, so I haven't heard anything different.
Okay, great. We will open it back up for an update. So up next is the WSTA report. I see President Knapp on.
Yep, I'm here. No such luck.
Not like President Knapp. Hear from you. Hope you're well on this Friday evening.
I am, and it's really good to see all of you back together, and that you could do a vote without doing a roll call vote. That in my meetings, I'm looking forward to that day coming sometime soon. So good evening, Superintendent Hildreth, President Wong, Vice President Kirby Gonzalez, and trustees. I'm just I have a bullet pointed list to go through tonight just to kind of talk about some items. It seems like, and I'm sure you're noticing this, we're really kind of in between things right now. And so it's kind of at least for me anyway, a little bit of a calm in the storm, but there are a few items that I wanted to cover tonight. One is to update the board and the community on the progress of successor bargaining. Both WUSD and WSTA teams have been working really hard together. And the conversation and dialogue have been productive. And I'm happy to report that we've reached tentative agreement on Article 12, which is safety, and Article 8, which is negotiations. So that's speeding along pretty quickly. Let's see. We are looking forward for that process to continue collaboratively, because I know that both parties could use some bargaining downtime over the summer break. It would be nice not to be progressively bargaining forever into eternity. I'm sure you can imagine. Let's see. I wanted to talk about at the last board meeting, I talked a little bit about due process, encourage WUSD to reach out in areas they might involve the contract, so that we're not skipping due process. We had an instance that you probably heard about with Westfield and schedules being made, and having to go back and address the issues, kind of the overlooked issues in the contract. Sorry, my dogs are barking. Having to address the overlooked issues in the contract ended up creating a lot of hardship for teachers and students and community members. And that is absolutely something that we want to avoid. So we're encouraged, because since that time, it seems like communication in regards to changes are improving. And I'm getting a lot of dialogue with HR and other departments when it looks like something's coming up that we need to address together. And we just want to encourage that moving forward, that we're consulting our CBA language and each other before adjusting schedules or making other adjustments that have an impact on both of our students and our professionals in the district. And kind of alluding to that, I wanted to thank Kamaljeet Panu and WUSD Cabinet for reaching out regarding potential masking guidance and change. I know I made that loud and clear at the last meeting that it would be helpful if ahead of time we're having conversations so that those transitions can happen smoothly. And indeed, Mr. Panu has reached out, and we're planning on meeting next week. We're all trying to anticipate recommendations from CDPH, and WSTA is ready to look at any guidance changes and help determine how to move forward to support the necessary transitions. It will be important for our members that WUSD continue to provide N95 masks and have a good stock available if and when guidance changes. It is also important to remember that COVID continues to circulate in our classrooms, making policy, if masking policy is eased, it's going to be essential that we have high quality PPE for all who request it, and be prepared for that with that change. I know, there's still positive cases out there, and we want to make sure that people are able to continue protecting themselves regardless of what the status is and the guidance is from CDPH. Lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about SEL, social emotional learning. I want to make sure that stays on our radar. I know I've had a lot of conversations with Jackie, with President Wong, about
President Jackie.
President Jackie Hat Wong. Put it all in there. And I want to make sure that stays front and center on our radar, because these issues haven't gone away. And there's a tendency to kind of take steps forward thinking, oh, things are kind of coming back to normal, but our kids are still struggling emotionally. And one of the things that I think that we can really look at here, and I'm not entirely sure how much control we have, but I think we need to be aware of it, is that although things are getting better, I think it's important that we don't carry on business as usual as if it were any other year. And I've been talking particularly to middle school teachers about what the end of the year is looking like. And there is a concern about being bogged down with testing. That students coming up here are going to just be tested after tested after tested, and it could be pretty depleting for our students in a time where they're already pretty depleted. So I just wanted to let you know that as of right now, there's obviously plans, roughly 9 days to do. I'm just going to, for example, talk about 8th grade. There's roughly 9 days of iReady testing, 4 days of post assessments, 6 days of SBAC, 1 day of PSAT, and 1 to 2 days of the science test, which they also have in 5th grade. I know that a lot of this is state mandated, and there's a lot that we probably can't do as far as what we do, but I think we need to be really sensitive, if we have to do it, to how we do it. Because it's overwhelming. I could just, just from knowing what my daughter is doing in her freshman year of high school, it's all so overwhelming on top of everything else they've been dealing with now. And I think that it's important that students have perspective that while it's important for us to get summative information about them, this is not who they are. It doesn't constitute the entirety of their being. And I don't want us to lose track of that message as we move forward with the business that we have to do. And with that, I want to say thank you for the time, and have a good evening.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item L, to superintendent and board comments. But before then, I'm going to provide a land acknowledgement. I feel like I should probably do this earlier in the meeting. I'll change this up. So if you will indulge me. So Washington Unified School District acknowledges that Indigenous peoples and nations, including Patwin, Nisenan, Miwok, and Wintun peoples, have stewarded through generations the lands and waterways of what we now know as West Sacramento. We honor and respect the enduring relationship that exists between the peoples and nations and this land. So thank you again. May that guide our conversations with wisdom this evening. So with that said, I'm gonna actually start with Dr. Hildreth if you have any comments.
Yes, thank you, President Wong, Vice President Kirby Gonzalez, and trustees. It's always a lot happening in our district, good, and we celebrate the good and recognize the challenges. But I do want to start this evening recognizing what's the challenge that we have in the world. And so on behalf of the entire Washington Unified family, we want to express our deepest sympathies for the devastating events occurring in Ukraine. There are no words to describe how our WUSD families with close ties to that part of the world feel, let alone those with friends and loved ones living through this ordeal firsthand. We know that the horrific scenes we see in the media daily can have a lasting impact on many of our students, staff, families, and community members. So we want to make sure that our families know that we are here to help during this difficult time. We want our families and our community to know that they can reach out to the school's main office and be directed to support. They can contact the district office. Our student and family support services are ready to help. We have Russian language support for a homeschool liaison from Valentina Krishiko for additional assistance. And earlier today, we shared with all families and staff a variety of helpful resources for Russian and Ukrainian students, which you can find on our homepage under announcements and posted to our social media pages. I also want to thank, we had staff who shared resources. We had Vice President Kirby Gonzalez who shared resources, and that's what it's about. When we see something that we think will be helpful to our community with this just in the last couple of days, we want to create a resource toolkit that can be shared so that our staff, our teachers will be able to help our students maneuver through conversations and making sure that there is awareness and understanding. And this is a moment that allows us to show empathy and compassion for others. So just know that we are here for our community and we will continue to focus on the social emotional needs and support for our families. Next, I want to give out a shout out to Bridgeway Island and Yolo High School for their hospitality, as Stan and I visited their campuses last week as part of our process of really going in and looking at instruction and just really being able to celebrate what is happening in our classrooms. At Bridgeway Island, we saw teachers were busy implementing effective strategies to engage students in meaningful dialogue about a variety of topics, while at Yolo High School, students were focused on creative problem solving through the lens of current events. Thank you to everyone across all levels of our school community who continue to work together as a team to support the students in their success. We see you and we truly appreciate you. As we have heard and are receiving correspondence, so to let us know that our community is aware of upcoming changes to our mask guidance. And as a governance team last week, we lifted the outdoor masking requirements. I want to just be able to share some recent data. We were on a call with Dr. Amy Sisson yesterday, and she shared that recent data from the state and county show that the Omicron wave is receding. But at the same time, our preventive measures are always improving and continue to be effective, especially when used in conjunction with vaccines. The attendance throughout WUSD continues to trend upward. We're in the about 93%, and in January, the lowest we had gotten to was about 81%. So we're really seeing an increase. As of yesterday, the case rate in Yolo County continues to decrease, dropping to 22 positive cases per 100,000 people per day. Now, this is still technically a high community transmission, and we need to always remember that. But we are approaching 14, which is the threshold for substantial, moving from high to substantial, the next lower tier. The county rate is decreasing by approximately 2 cases per day. So there is a possibility in the county that we will hit that 14 case lower tier threshold next week. Testing positivity also continues to decrease and is 1.9% countywide. And COVID positive hospitalizations in Yolo County were at a recent low of 7 on February 18th. The one thing we need to also think about is we want to look at the data for Yolo County, but we also want to look at the data for West Sacramento as well. We know that with masking, there are benefits for one-way masking that have increased since the pandemic hit. And so Dr. Sisson shared that individuals who wear N95s or KN95 masks are well protected, even if they are the only individual in a room wearing a mask. If it is a high quality mask, you are protected. That's also because we have several mitigation safety layers in place that the district invested in with our HVAC, making sure that we have that Swiss cheese layer of protection, and masking was one of those layers, but there were other layers that we have in place. So we know there's going to be developments coming on Monday with what we've heard and from CDPH, and we will make sure to get that information to our community as soon as we can. As we think about what we can do with our focus on health and safety, we want to make sure that the community knows that Washington Unified and UC Davis Health are hosting another vaccine clinic tomorrow, February 26th from 10 to 3, and it will be held here at the district office. Each vaccine clinic will offer the Pfizer pediatric vaccine for children ages 5 to 11 and the Pfizer vaccine for children 12 and older. The team will also administer first doses, second doses, and boosters. We are making appointments available by visiting myturn.ca.gov, but walk-ins are also welcome. And again, there is more information about that vaccine clinic on our website. And then finally, I think we can all agree that there is no better way to end Black History Month than to celebrate President Biden's nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. Senate Democratic leaders hope to have a vote confirming Judge Jackson to the court by mid-April, marking her confirmation as the first Black woman to sit on the highest court in the nation. To quote President Biden, "For too long, our government, our courts haven't looked like America. I believe it's time that we have a court that reflects the full talents and greatness of our nation with a nominee of extraordinary qualifications, and that we inspire all young people to believe that they can one day serve their country at the highest level." Truthfully, I could not have said it any better. This is a truly remarkable accomplishment for our nation and a prime example for our very own community to model as we make huge strides to reinvent and re-envision our district's strategic planning to better serve each individual that makes up our amazing community. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. How do you feel about that? Trustee Pizzotti.
I thought you were going.
I get to facilitate.
Well, I am just gonna say, yeah, this is a tremendous day. It's historic on several fronts, but you know, seeing the first African-American woman being, you know, put forward as a nominee to the Supreme Court, one that's already been confirmed several times, certainly looks like this is going to be a Supreme Court and a Supreme Court nominee that's just going to do, I think, America proud. Especially she's 51 years old and has accomplished so many great things at such a young age. So I'll just comment on that and say that I can't wait to see her on the bench. You know, she's filling the shoes of a legend, and they're very big shoes, but but as for that, I will say that I hope that this nomination has bipartisan support and not just showing the partisan divide that our country has come to bear for the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. So I would say thank you for bringing that up. That was absolutely wonderful and is a momentous day. I want to say thank you to the district for sending out the email about supports for Ukrainian and Russian families. My neighbor family is a family from Ukraine, and the kids are the only ones that speak English. The parents still speak, well, it's kind of a hybrid between Ukrainian and Russian. And I was talking to them last night about what was going on, and they broke down into tears because it's their families, you know, their extended family that's still there, that's going through this. And I could see the pain on their faces, how they felt betrayed, you know. So I don't want to get into the whole politics of it, but I'm so glad that we're providing resources to them, or at least showing them where they can find the resources to utilize if they need support. That is so important to us, to me at least, because these are good people that just want to seek a better life for themselves. But their family, their extended family, is going through tremendous trauma right now, which in turn puts trauma on them. So with that, I'll keep it relatively short. The things I would like to see us start to take a look at, as we know the announcements are coming on recommendations, let's be prepared to start having discussions and make sure we have the data in place. So let's, take a look at making sure we know what our vaccination rates are amongst staff, both teachers and classified. Make sure we have an understanding of what our vaccination rates are amongst students by age group and hopefully by school, so we can understand that. Make sure we have an understanding of where our cache of masks are, N95 or KN95 masks are, for those that may want to have the choice to use that. And make sure that we continue our conversations with our partners in the workforce. So with that, I'm good.
Trustee Barnes.
Oh, I'm next. Thank you. I said, oh, I'm next. Let's see, where was I going to begin? I can pick up where you left off on masking. And I did want to, we have plenty of N95 masks in our, okay, great. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate the restating the importance of the one-way protection. I appreciate that that it's optional. I also just hope, I've been saying this to all the adults that I come into contact with that are involved with the district today and yesterday, because I was a little concerned by a comment that I heard about, making fun of kids who choose to wear or not wear a mask. And so I just want to be sure that our communities are also thinking about talking to their kids about the fact that, one, we don't need to know the personal health history of every person in the playground or teaching our students, but two, it's not really our business if they want to wear a mask or not wear a mask. I do think it's appropriate to wear an N95 mask or a KN95 mask, obviously, as studies show, for safety, and or if that's just something that someone chooses to do. So I hope that we can continue to support each other that way. That would be good. And then I love that we did send out information and communications regarding the Ukraine. I hope that, I think it's good to hear it from all of us that these are tough times. We're here for you. We support you and we love you. And just know that we are here as resources. I was really encouraged by Doug's message, Doug Knapp, when he talked about thinking about prioritizing the SEL and being sensitive to how we roll out testing, because it could be a lot and overwhelming for our kids. I just love to hear that we're all on the same page with prioritizing SEL for our kids, especially after all we've been through over the past couple of years. And then, in case I'm not here for adding future agenda items, can I say?
You're leaving, I should have.
Yeah, can I say that, or is that,
Yeah.
is now,
Oh,
okay.
that's fine.
I appreciate, I know we've had a lot of comments and some emails about safety in our community. And I was asking about SRO, the history. So I would like to have an open discussion if we can, since I can't call each of you and ask sort of about that. Since those are things that the community is asking for, and I'm not really sure of the history. I would like to know more about it. I know where I stand on it, but I would like to have some feedback from the board if that's appropriate in history. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Vice President Kirby Gonzalez.
Okay, thank you. And I'll reiterate, as you said, it's important to hear from all of us about Ukraine and the messages that went out, because our community does serve so many families who are Ukrainian and also who are Russian. And so that was very much appreciated. And I know our staff, sometimes you need some supports when you're in a classroom and you're seeing the impacts on your students. And so I appreciate that very much. And also appreciate getting the data on our vaccine numbers, if we can be presented with updates of what that looks like, because I know it's a constantly changing target. And I appreciated the the home kits that went out is just one layer and one piece. And that was very hopeful to have that. I noticed that we were at 0, which was great at our school. Then we saw some numbers there, and I assume that it's from coming back from break that people maybe took that advantage of that test, which I really appreciate. I think that'll be great after spring break too, to have that tool. And as a positive, since we've shared lots of challenges with the latest testing at our school sites, we've been getting our test results the next day now. So we've been seeing a big change in that, which is nice. So I wanted to share that since we definitely talked about the challenges. And then also in terms of the high quality mask, my girls have them, but especially some of our young kids, things happen. And she came home with a really high quality mask and said, "Where'd you get that?" And it was from the district. And so I just, that was really appreciated because I didn't have extras in her backpack. And it gives a level of comfort for our families too, to know that we have these masks available upon request, or if our kids lose their lanyards and don't have them with them. And then in terms of the vaccine clinics, I think a helpful thing too, we talked about before, making sure that information was translated. Also, if we have our vaccine numbers, then there might be ways to see if we have school sites that have lower numbers, maybe that's a school site that we said, make sure the paper flyers go home, that we prioritize getting that.
Yeah.
Because using our technology is a barrier sometimes. And sometimes those paper flyers just are what some of our families might be needing. And then I'll just end with, I visited Westfield today, kindergarten, and just a big shout out to all of our teachers that teach our youngest children, who tell you all different stories about their day. But one thing that they're thinking about as we consider our remodel, that the kindergartners, I wanted to share their perspective, was maybe painting some of our walls rainbow or possibly red.
I love that.
Well, I know the rainbow, more children said rainbow, but I wanted to honor the crowd.
Remember the red debate here.
We definitely have had a red debate and a swing. So, but also when we're at our school sites, just remembering to really thank all of our staff that are there. I know that we have like everywhere, challenges with staffing. So thank you to the families and parents who've stepped up to volunteer. And if you see a yard supervisor or anyone at our sites, just give them a big thank you for being there, because they're appreciated, and we need to make sure that they feel appreciated so that we can keep them.
I forgot one thing.
Go ahead.
On the celebration of the new Supreme Court Justice, I also wanted to point out that we should celebrate our first African American. It's an appropriate month to do this. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, continue.
I was going to say that, and then I got distracted by my list, but it wasn't on my list, and I am sorry that I just stole that. Now it's okay. I'm like, but yes, this is a great month to celebrate you as well, and I'm so glad. I love the line that we are hopefully making our Supreme Court look more like our country, and I feel the same way about our district, and I love that we say that all the time. So I'm excited. I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Okay.
Ditto to all of that. I think probably in 100 years, this board has looked, this cabinet has probably looked more like our community than in other times. So I'm really proud of that. And so 100 years, y'all, 100 years. This happened here in this district. So really proud of that. Ditto to everybody. And you all know that I'm a move along. But also just appreciate, as y'all know, that I'm a refugee kid, grew up as a refugee. So you all provided supports to communities that weren't there for me. So appreciate our response. And we know that we had a response for the Afghan refugees. And unfortunately, this may be a regular occurring thing. So if we can keep that top of mind, how do we actually just support our families in transition that are going through this? Because I think the world is going to change quickly. With that said, thank you also for continuing with the strategic plan. I think we had a rich conversation about SEL and the portrait of a graduate and all of that. And we had a really good conversation with the county today on mental health services, and we'll hopefully get that going. I know I'm not on the county district 2x2 again, but hopefully those who are can continue on that conversation, because I feel like we're really close and something we're kind of missing each other. So I think that will happen. So as a point of privilege because I forgot that trustee Barnes is actually leaving
I'm sorry.
possibly early, is that I am going to reopen the agenda, approval of the agenda. And I want to move the action items up before information items. If
Good
you're
idea.
okay with that.
Yeah.
Trustee Barnes, remind me, what time are you leaving?
I need to go by like 6:55 at the latest.
Okay, I am wondering if everybody's okay with that. We don't have that many public comments. Would like to make that amendment to move both the consent agenda and the other action items up. And then well, you already did the future agenda. Yes, do I have any?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, that's unanimous vote. So
We can also end at that time too. That would be.
Yeah, if we end at that time, that'd be great.
I did it at 7 hard, right? Hard stop.
All right.
we will, when we get there, we will figure this out, but let's get moving. So we are going to move on to public comments. I see that there are 2 written comments and no live comments tonight. So, but I will read. Is there a public comment? Yes.
Yes, somebody or Candy Santos.
Okay.
has requested.
I apologize. So, but while you are elevating her, let me read this. Members of the public may address the board and topics on the board agenda in addition to topics that are not under the jurisdiction of the board and are not on the agenda. Although the board by law may not take action at this meeting, under board policy, the board may limit the total time of public input on any topic to 20 minutes unless it chooses to waive the item limit for a particular item. Individual speakers may be provided up to 3 minutes to comment on any topic unless amended. Public comments consisting of individual charges, complaints, derogatory remarks about any district employee are requested to be submitted in writing to the administration in accordance with the district's complaint procedure. As such, the board reminds the public that the district has existing board policy that allows for a public to lodge a complaint against the district employee. The policy provides a comprehensive procedure for reviewing and responding to public complaints. This process provides a more thorough opportunity to be heard than is allowed under the open meeting law that governs this meeting. The board respects the rights of members of the public to speak regarding matters on the agenda and other matters within the jurisdiction of the board. However, it is important for members of the public to recognize that comments regarding students other than the speaker's own children made during a public board meeting may be legally actionable as violation of student privacy. Both state and federal law prohibit the board and others from discussing confidential student information in an open session. To this end, be advised that if you reference a student's name other than your own student, you will be out of order. And your comments may not be protected by the privileges that protect public speech. You could be found liable for such comments in legal proceedings. Furthermore, it is important for the public to understand that negative or derogatory comments made against district employees or others, even those made in public forum, may be actionable civil defamation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you to help facilitate this portion, Mario.
Hi, Candy Santos. I have allowed you the ability to speak and you may begin. Candy, you're unmuted. I remember you speaking.
Ms. Santos?
Oh, is the volume? Is it the
I
volume?
don't see her,
The
the
microphone's
microphone.
not going. so
Yeah, she's not.
Oh,
She needs to unmute, maybe.
Ms. Santos, you are unmuted, but your audio is not connected to.
I have unmuted. I'm going to remove your permission and reinstate it and see if that helps. Okay, if you want to try unmuting yourself again and see if that works. You're still muted on my end. That's what I see, Ms. Santos.
Yeah, she's.
Nope.
You're showing up as muted on the back end here for participants.
Give it another minute. So. Ms. Santos, it seems that your mic isn't connected to your computer. So Mara, can we move on to the next? I know that she's still elevated and if she can fix it by the end.
Yes, she still has permission to speak, so if her audio works,
Is there a second?
there's no.
Okay.
Are you logged in as yourself, may I ask, or anonymous attendee? Because we don't see anonymous attendee as an attendee on our side.
Oh, maybe that's why.
And I gave the login Candy Santos permission to speak. So I don't know if you logged in twice, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll leave the login with Candy Santos with permission to speak, so you may unmute yourself, but President Wong, if you wanted to read the pre-submitted comments.
So the first pre-submitted comment is from Elizabeth Tetrol. Wondering why we are still masking indoors when the children are all playing together outdoors already. There's no reason the children need to feel seen and heard. If the child is negative, why do they need to wear a mask? Making it optional gives them a choice and will reassure them that they still have some kind of control, helping their mental and emotional well-beings. Please let our kids be free. Thank you. Comment number 2 is from Ms. Gail Costello. Ms. Gail Costello is not general public comment and has a comment on the consent agenda item, which I will read then. Last opportunity for Ms. Santos. Did we fix the audio? Ms. Santos, you're now unmuted. You're showing up now. Unfortunately, Ms. Santos, we cannot hear you because it seems like your mic is not connected to your computer. May I ask that you actually email the board with your comment? Okay, I apologize, but Ms. Santos, if you want to log all the way back out and log back in, I will allow later for public comment if that fixes your technical challenge. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next item up, which would be we've moved the consent agenda item up. So last opportunity for anybody to move anything off the consent agenda item. Now I will actually read Ms. Gail Costello's comments on consent agenda item P6 and P7, overnight field trips to Disneyland and Washington, D.C. In view of the current controversy about 5th grade female students in Los Alamitos, California, being chaperoned in science camp cabins by biological male adults, what is the WSD's policy on field trips regarding an adequate number of both biological male and biological females to stay overnight in the accommodations with the students? Parents need to understand the requirements, limitations, or in-cabin, in-hotel chaperones for district outings. Okay. Do I have any board comments on the consent agenda item? Do I have a motion to approve the consent?
So moved.
So, Vice President Gonzalez moved. I will take a second from Trustee Barnes. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, this is fun.
Right? This is normal. This is actually
Okay.
normal.
Wow.
I'm going to move on to action item Government Code Section 48918, student discipline case number 2022-05S. Assistant Superintendent Stan Moisich. And is Jay on? Is Jay not coming back? Are you presenting this, Stan? Oh,
He may be back.
Whoa.
Sorry. He may be back. I'm not, he was driving, but I think we have enough information here. So earlier tonight, the Board of Trustees received information on student discipline case number 2022-05 in closed session. As required by Ed Code, the board is supposed to take action on the recommendations of staff for the student discipline case in open session. And so we asked you to go ahead with the recommendations made by staff.
remind me on discipline cases, do we need to individual votes or can we do a unanimous or not unanimous?
Typically, up to this point, we've been voting.
Individually or?
Yes, that's what we've been doing up to this point, so far.
Okay, well.
I'm trying to remember. We've been doing this for so long. I'm trying to remember back to
That's
the
what
olden
we've been doing.
days.
Okay,
Back
okay,
to the
so
old.
I think discipline cases, we have to do individual votes.
Yeah.
So on that,
I'll make
Trustee
a motion.
Pizzotti,
Yeah,
you have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to accept staff's recommendations
okay, do I have a second? As amended. As amended with.
as amended. Yes,
Okay.
that's right. That's right. As amended.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Trustee Pizzotti moves with a motion, the staff recommendation and with amendment, and Trustee Barnes seconds. Trustee Barnes.
Aye.
Vice President Kirby Gonzalez.
Aye.
I too vote aye. Trustee Pizzotti.
Aye.
Motion passes. Action item passes. Okay. Moving on to approval of project initiation with AC Martin for architectural and engineering services for the Westfield Village Elementary School modernization. Assistant Superintendent Monique Stovall.
Good evening. We request approval of the project initiation for AC Martin to be the architects for the modernization of our Westfield Village Elementary School. Brief history, back in 2020, you did approve and we went forward with master agreements for 6 architectural firms to have, for lack of better words, in our pool. We did go back for an RFP specifically for the Westfield Village Elementary Measure Z project and received 5 responses from those 6 architects. We conducted paper screenings and we did interviews with all of those who submitted proposals. And then we also interviewed our our top 2 firms and are bringing to you a request to approve AC Martin as the architects for the Westfield Village. A little background on AC Martin. You may remember that they were once called ATI and they worked on our Bright Phase 2 project. And so they do have history with our district, history that we believe we're pretty pleased with.
Right.
We are also pleased with their cost mitigation responses, knowing that escalation costs are increasing at unforeseen rates. And so we definitely wanted to have deep conversations with them on that particular topic to see how they would be able to pivot as things get more expensive, but still be able to meet our needs and be innovative in meeting our needs. The cost of this contract is at $1.9 million, and we request your approval.
I realize I didn't open up the public comments. I'm assuming public comments. There weren't public comments on the discipline.
No public comments on this item or action item 2.
So seeing that there are no public comments, any board discussion? We're happy with architecture, I think, last time?
Yeah,
Okay,
well, they did a great job on Bright. I remember meeting with them when we were
Looks good.
picking out what to go into Bright. So, no, they're good.
okay. I will entertain a motion to,
Exciting.
sorry.
I will move.
Trustee Barnes, Vice President Kirby Gonzalez, seconds. All in favor?
Hi.
Get your vote.
That's exciting.
Okay. I realize that, do we want to talk about board governance stuff? Are we adopting these tonight?
I do have one item.
Okay, so the board governance, so there's 2 that we need to vote on that I'd like.
Wait,
Board governance.
do we hear?
Can we hear?
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Hi, Candy.
Can you guys hear me now?
yay!
Hear you.
That was
Sorry.
totally an operator error. Thank you so much for the chance to do this again. Okay, so I just want to reiterate that my thoughts on this is that I really want to get rid of these masks on our children immediately because I believe they need to be breathing freely. And on February 13th, we requested that WUSD provide evidence-based reasons for the continued mask guidance on indoor settings within our schools. While the outdoor mask guidance has been altered, the indoor masking requirements remain. The board is yet to provide any response to that request. Individuals representing children are mandated reporters of child abuse. This is all of you board members and WSD employees. When you witness or suspect child abuse, you are obligated both ethically and legally to report it to social services or to the police. Allowing children to mask their faces has caused and continues to cause tremendous harm to them, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and developmentally, Any argument to the contrary is naive and irrational. The CDC has even lowered the standards of how many words a child should know in a particular age group. Just as you would never tolerate a parent beating their child or burning him with a cigarette lighter in your presence, you should not condone or allow minors to have their faces covered with these masks. They may not leave physical scars, although they often result in painful skin infections that can lead to permanent facial disfigurement, but they do cause significant and possibly permanent damage to a child's brain, retarding speech and language development, crippling social skills, and inciting a vicious cycle of emotional dysregulation, leading to major depression, self-harm, and substance abuse. We would never allow someone to do this to our children directly. So why do we condone it through the vehicle of face masks? I have been personally affected by this with my own child. That's why it's very emotional to me. So forgive me, I'm trying to stay professional on this. We have sacrificed our children out of fear for adults. Never in our history have we put adults' health above children's health. I challenge Washington Unified School District and parents to confront this horrible behavior, essentially a projection of adult fear and anxiety onto children who have no capacity to consent to the abuse. You, the adults and parents, are not the victims. Your children are. Who will be reporting this abuse to the proper authorities if these masks are not removed immediately? Remember, you are legally required to report all abuse. The definition of an insanity is doing the same thing, but expecting different results. It's time to return to sanity and use critical thinking to make better decisions for our children. Start protecting our children and stop harming them. We continue to eagerly await your response detailing Washington Unified School District's evidence-based reasons for the continued mandatory mask guidance on indoor settings within our schools, or simply act now and pursue a course of action like 20 plus other school districts, including California.
Thank you, Ms. Santos. Your 3 minutes were up.
Thank you. We don't-
And we also have the written comments there. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the governance voting items while trustee Barnes is here. So first read approval to the board policy 5131.2 bullying, Assistant Superintendent Dan Moisage, and I believe Jay Burns.
Yes, thank you. An update to board policy 5131.2. Bullying was recommended by the California Department of Education to Washington Unified in order to align best practices and new bills passed in the state of California. This attachment is in alignment with language used by the California School Boards Association, CSBA. And on February 8th, the board subcommittee met on board policy, and they met and they gave their recommendations. Dr. Jay Burns has updated the current attached policy to reflect those recommendations, we believe. In addition, Dr. Jay Burns has been meeting with staff and students to gain additional input, and he will bring this item back for a second read and hopefully approval at the March 10th board meeting. Tonight, we have this as a first read, and we'd like you to take another look. And if you have other inputs, areas for guidance, we'd ask for that.
The action is first read and approval, so
First reads.
oh, so you don't want to, if the board is ready to approve.
I don't think Dr. Jay
Unless
Burns
we're
has
making
put in
amendments.
the student recommendations yet.
Gotcha, okay,
And so I'd like those to be added.
gotcha, okay, thank you, sorry, I was just reading the action.
Thank you for that.
Dr. Burns, you're up.
Okay, so you had some questions at the committee, at the last committee meeting when we went over it. Some of the questions were cyberbullying was deleted and a follow-up. So someone was going to check with CSBA on your end, the follow-up. Strategies for bullying are being addressed on the strategic plan came up, so that we wanted to clarify that that's being addressed. The definition of bullying at the top, like we defined hate behavior, so I added the definition. I went onto the federal website, found the definition where I went to CDE, and then CDE referred us to the federal definition for it. So I added that in there. And then the question was, why was so much of it crossed out is what you're asking? And I don't have an answer for that, obviously. That's more of a CSBA answer. And then student focus groups. I met with River City High School yesterday, and in the process of meeting with YOLO High School as well. River City shared a lot of input, and I will share that document with you guys at a later date so that you guys have that input. I'll tell you, it was a highlight of my day yesterday, meeting with River City High leadership students and meeting with YOLO High School leadership students. So if you guys ever get some time, go to those classes and just talk to them about their civic duty. It was really helpful for them to see the importance of sharing their viewpoint. So thank you.
Do we have any public comments on this?
No public comments.
Okay, seeing none, turn it over to the board for discussion. If you're looking at it, I mean, there are parts of this that I really do, I don't I mean, I'd like to keep the strategies for addressing bullying in districts that shall be developing in key collaboration with others. Right, so if we have a bullying policy or protocols, that's, even though CSB has no answers, sometimes they just don't, because their attorneys are just like, this is the law. But I actually like the thing that actually is currently stricken out, but about engaging our community in a plan, in a bullying plan, right? Especially since we raised it on the masking issue, not masking.
So where are you?
That's under page 2, freedom of speech, rights for addressing.
Right, okay, that's right.
Development, involvement, blah, 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 et cetera.
Mhm.
So I know that this is just a first read and maybe we'll have more comments, but just if we want to take a second to read over just this quick board policy, that was what came top of mind, why if there was no legal reason to strike it, I just would like to keep it.
So would it basically, if struck out,
We don't engage people.
We
Like,
don't-
I want
it's
as
basically
a,
saying we don't have a strategy in place? We don't, why would we not do that? Why would we?
and we probably have a strategy, but it's just not part of our board policy. I'd like us to be explicit with the public
Mhm.
that we have a strategy and that we've engaged stakeholders in doing so.
That's good.
I would say that we always do, whether or not it's in board policy, but as this is part of our governance, one of our responsibilities, I'd like us to be explicit about where we stand on that.
I agree.
It uses the word including, President Wong, it says including students, parents, guardians, caregivers, foster parents, educational rights holders and staff. And I just wonder if we want to keep the word including or such as, or what, my question is, what is the definition of educational rights holder? Is there a different way of saying this or?
No, that was always my, because I made everybody change to ed rights holder because there are children in foster care who their foster parents don't hold their ed rights. There's other
Oh.
people on sites like CASAs who hold their ed rights. You remember this, you do remember me making everybody change it to ed.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I get it.
That was my fault, not, but
Okay.
I'm proud of it being my fault.
Okay, well, I'm just making sure I understand it. So do we want this to be that every member of this group is in the development of the plan?
Yes, including, but if there are others, might including but not limited to.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
What page was that on?
That was page 2, and then.
Okay.
Paragraph.
other thing
If
was
I'm
also
hearing
in-
you correctly, you guys want to include this back in and not
Yeah,
strike it
let's-
out.
Yeah, unless there was a legal reason, but Dr. Burns, you said nobody gave you a legal reason for striking
No,
it
and we're
out.
gonna check, Stephanie Grote texted me, she's gonna check with FPM if there's anything that we need to include
Yeah.
for federal program monitor that we
Okay.
recently went through.
Yeah. And the other thing is I would also keep like collaborating with law enforcement, courts, social services. So
Mhm.
like that's the other piece of it.
Mhm.
Bullying, that if it needs to kind of be elevated. So the collaboration pieces, I would love to keep.
Okay. Okay, I'm putting that in my comments.
And even the positive school climate stuff.
Let's just put it all back. It's fine. It's fine.
That's part of this discussion, right?
No, I agree with you. I think you're
I know
100%
that
right on.
that's a CSA recommendation, but I'll let you all read.
We
I
don't
would-
understand why.
Unless there's a legal reason, I am not necessarily comfortable striking all of this out under our bullying stuff.
Can anybody give us an answer as to why it was struck?
No, Dr. Burns said he asked CSA,
Okay.
that's just what CSA told us to do.
Okay.
And that's what the attorney said to do.
And part of our discussion, I think, was we were seeing if it was redundant, if it was listed somewhere else.
All right.
And so if it's not, then it does seem like this is important language.
Unless there's opposed to like having community engagement and a plan and strategies and supports that we all talk about in our board comments.
Yeah.
I would rather keep it, especially.
No, I'm good with it.
Why not?
All right. And then.
So if I'm
instruction-
hearing you correctly, you want to keep the section where it says, as appropriate, the district shall provide
Well,
students.
most of everything that's struck out, honestly.
Okay.
Like the positive school climate stuff, like teaching the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is
I'm
weird.
highlighting it.
Yeah.
Positive
Or at
school
least just
climate.
ask the question.
Right, that's the why.
Yeah, just ask the question and give us an answer as to why it was struck.
Mhm.
Or we'll leave it in.
Or we'll just leave it in.
Right, like, so,
Well, maybe there is a legal reason why they were struck. Yeah.
I mean, even if it's duplicative, something in the bullying says that appropriate shall provide students with instruction in the classroom or other education that promotes effective communication, conflict resolution, social skills. And I know that's part of CHIA, the California Health and Youth Act, which actually addresses our LGBTQ bullying issues. So I'm totally fine with it.
Mhm.
Right, things like that, right? Or the history, social science instruction, which is about kind of systemic, kind of issues, racism, sexism, all of that. So that's why I'm like, the reference is fine to me. I would be more than happy to keep it here, even if it is duplicative.
This is where, as we talked last time, this is where our families go. This is this policy. I think this is the policy that is cited the most in terms of what, if we're gonna get an email about policy, it's probably gonna be this one.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, or the interventions with the staff development. Why shouldn't staff know what the intervention? Like, all of this just striking out doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, I will reach out to CSBA and see if I can get answers. I will see.
And if you don't, the direction is, even if it's duplicative, I would like to keep it because this is what our parents reach out to. But
Okay.
yes, you can give us the answers.
Okay.
That'd be great.
That's good.
I don't think it's going to change my stance on keeping it, but. Yeah,
Yeah, we're good.
okay,
We got it.
cool. And then I'd be curious to know what the students say about like
Yeah.
striking all this out.
That'll
too.
be interesting.
Don't bring it up first. See if they put their, yeah.
You're taking away all
Right.
Yeah.
all of our avenues. Okay, that's the direction, Dr. Burns. All right, we're gonna move on to our next item, which is the resolution for approval of 21-22-24 Women's History Month. Woo woo.
So should I read this?
No, as an ally, if you can't. if
RBG
you'd like to,
is RBG.
yes, that might be good.
Different phases of RBG. Who, I can't.
It's Gloria Steinem, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Rosa Parks.
I don't even see Rosa Parks. No, that's good. I like that shirt, Jackie.
And then, what's her name, who went for president? I forgot her, what's her name? They're missing Dolores, though. That's why I haven't had.
Yeah.
But she looks good. in it.
Lucy and Cora can tell you all about it in Spanish.
Anyways, so trustee Pizzotti, as an ally, I would love for you to read the.
Oh, thanks.
I think we should all read it
We can,
together.
we can all. read it.
No, I like letting him read it. All right. Oh, I'm sorry.
And
God.
Elizabeth Warren.
Who am
I was
I?
joking.
I know, but we want to read it together, we can.
Go ahead as an ally.
As an ally, yes. Resolution number 21-22-24, Women's History Month. Whereas women of every race and ethnic background have contributed and continue to contribute to our country's triumphs and accomplishments in countless ways. And whereas women have played and continue to play critical roles in the economic, cultural, and social spheres of our nation's life by constituting a significant portion of the labor workforce, the labor force working in and outside of the home. And whereas women have played a unique role throughout our history by providing the majority of the nation's volunteer labor force and have been particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in the country. And whereas women of diverse backgrounds have served as leaders in the forefront of progressive social change, not only to secure their right of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also to abolish slavery, promote fairness and equality and safety in the workplace, and advance the modern civil rights movement. And whereas the role of women in history has been overlooked and undervalued in the past, through its significance is now emerging and assuming its rightful place as an important part of the body of American and world history. And whereas the California Education Code Section 51204.5 calls explicitly for instruction in the social sciences to include the study of the role and contributions of both men and women to the economic, political, and social development of California and the nation. with particular emphasis on portraying the role of men and women in contemporary society. And whereas the history social science framework for California public schools, kindergarten through grade 12, states that the history curriculum of community, state, region, nation, and the world must reflect the experiences of men and women and different racial, religious, and ethnic groups, and must be integrated at every level. And therefore, be it resolved that the Washington Unified School District recognizes the month of March as Women's History Month and encourages all schools to commemorate this occasion. Passed and adopted by the Washington Unified School District Board of Education on this 24th day of February, 2022 by the following vote.
Do I have any public comments? Oh, sorry. Okay.
You can go first. I have a revision. I don't know why it says men and then
Right.
women second. So I'd like to put women first in all of those.
Do
It's
it.
Women's History Month, so.
That's right. Do it. It should be that way.
Women have too long gone after the men. And so
Yes,
I would like to make that amendment.
yes,
Wholeheartedly agree.
in that last comment. Any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay, so amend in the last comment, in the last whereas.
No, all of them.
Before men.
Just go.
How when you go through the resolution, it says down lower
At the very, at the last.
and it
the whereas.
says.
Well, there's,
There, it says it a few times where it says,
And
we're
women.
going to study the roles and contributions of both men and women,
right.
women and men.
I'm kind of curious as why are we saying and men, period?
I don't really know, actually.
I'm just.
I would.
I feel like they-
Right?
They've had plenty of,
I would also support that there's a
or just humans.
transgender.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, yeah,
There's-
of-
Right,
I think we
Right.
should look at that, absolutely.
Mhm.
so let's just, like, I think that's also, like, we're happy to have a discussion, but I also, there are biologically female women who identify as men.
Sure.
Yep, so.
And a small amendment is just to make it this 25th day of February.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
with all of those amendments,
So 20,
women before men, and make sure it's the 25th.
I don't know how that happened.
So, any other amendment? No? Okay, this is actually a roll call vote because it is a resolution. So but I also need a motion to pass it
Well-
as amended.
I will move to pass it as amended.
Okay, trustee Barnett moves, passes as amended.
I'll second.
Okay.
Vice President Kirby Gonzalez seconds. Let's do roll call vote. Women before men?
Aye.
Wait.
Wait, I thought you were looking at me to vote.
I will vote
I'll vote
aye.
later.
Vice President Kirby Gonzalez? Aye. Trustee Barnett?
Aye.
And then the man. Trustee Basadi?
I vote.
No.
I vote yes. I did one of these.
My apologies. Who made the second?
Vice President Kirby Gonzalez.
Vice President Sarah.
Okay, then all our voting items have been dispensed of. We'll move back to our informational items. Thank you for indulging me so that trustee Barnes can be here for the votes.
Thank you.
It's important for you to be here for the women's history.
I agree. I'm glad I was here.
Did you want to dispense with the consent agenda or
Oh, did we not? Oh, we.
I thought we did.
did.
we did the
Yeah.
I'm
consent?
almost positive we
I
did.
thought that was
No,
the,
that's when I read, remember, I meant the comment too.
oh, okay.
Exciting.
Okay,
Yep.
we're good.
Yeah.
Right. We're good.
Information item O.
Okay.
2021 LCAP update by Assistant Superintendent Stan Mussich.
Thank you. So Assembly Bill 130 requires LEAs to present an update on the annual update to the 21-22 LCAP and budget overview for parents on or before February 28th, 2022 at a regularly scheduled meeting of the governing board body of the LEA. Just as a reminder, this item is only an update, no action is required. And I have with me tonight our Director of Compliance and Accountability, Ms. Stephanie Grote, right here. He's right on screen smiling to take us through it.
Hi, good evening, President Wong, School Board Superintendent Hildreth, and the community. This evening, we are sharing with you as an informational item, the mid-year LCAP update. Next slide. This evening's presentation will include a summary of the documents that were attached to the agenda. These attachments are the supplement to the annual update to the 2021 LCAP and the LCAP mid-year report. These documents are both for Washington Unified School District as well as Washington Middle College High School. They include all the available mid-year outcome data related to the metrics that were identified in the LCAP, as well as mid-year expenditures. Next page, next slide. Just as a reminder, the LCAP is a 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support the positive student outcomes while addressing the state and local priorities. Washington Unified School District has 3 goals that were adopted by the board in June of 2021. Next slide. One of the documents is the supplement to the annual update. This is a one-time mid-year report that we are doing. The supplements to the annual update consist of 5 prompts. These prompts are intended to provide succinct responses with a level of detail that is meaningful. Both the Washington Unified School District and the Middle College engage with their educational partners, and that is a new term. They were previously called stakeholders, but we now refer to everyone as educational partners in a number of ways. Information was gathered during town hall meetings, LCAP meetings, board meetings, student meetings, and additionally, Washington Unified School District is engaging with partners as it develops the strategic plan. The implementation of the ESSER 3 funds, successes and challenges are identified in a prompt as well. All plans, as you've heard throughout the presentations, are aligned to the LCAP. Next slide. The mid-year reports are broken into 2 sections. So this is the other document. The expected annual measurable objectives, as well as the actions and services. Student data has been presented to the board on a regular basis. In the next few slides, you will see several slides that you have already seen in previous presentations. The actions and services amounts are mid-year amounts and do not reflect the anticipated expenditures for the remainder of the school year. Next slide. This is just an example from the report of the expected annual measurable now I'm not going to be able to say it. Objectives. No objections. So this is the objective sections and what it looks like in the mid-year.
I'm okay with measuring objections.
I know.
If there's any objections, I'd like
now
to
that
know.
it's stuck in my head. So, and so you will see by the red area, this is the only section that has been updated in this report. So of course, with the CAS scores, we have given the CAS that mid-year data will be available once that is administered in the spring. Next section. Next slide. Thank you. In other areas of the report, the data that is reported is from current assessments. This slide was presented on January 13th during an in-depth presentation on iReady diagnostic results. Next slide. In reference to Washington Middle College mid-year report, this is the CAS data that was presented at the January 27th report to the board by Principal O'Neill. So again, this is something that you have previously seen as well as in the report. Next slide. Likewise, the board received English learner academic data information on January 27th. This data is reported in the mid-year data section with the applicable goals. Next slide. The next section of the mid-year report is the actions and service sections. This is an example of that section. The data information is in the last column. Again, the red arrow indicates the only area that has been updated in the report. The other columns are part of the LCAP. As previously stated, these dollar amounts do not reflect the anticipated expenditures for the remainder of the school year. Next slide. The specifics of the budget have been shared at the first interim, as well as during the budget development workshop that was held on February 15th. Additionally, information regarding funds will be presented to the board at the second interim in March. This chart in the second column is the projected amount at budget development last year. The third column shows the updated amount that was shared at first interim, and then the last column indicates the difference. Next slide. The budget impacts are shown here for Washington Middle College. In both slides, you can see the difference in the amounts. Again, this information was previously shared last week during the budget workshop. Next slide. This slide illustrates the makeup of the total LCFF funding for Washington Unified School District, including the base grant, the supplemental and concentration grants, as well as the add-ons. Next slide. With the pandemic relief funds that were received along with the balance and deadlines are illustrated in this slide. This slide was presented at the budget workshop and again just shows the deadline for those funds that were received. Final slide. The presentation tonight is really presented to the board as information only. The supplement to the annual update will be submitted for review and approval as part of the 2023 LCAP in June. We will continue to meet with our educational partners to gather input, review data, and make any changes and updates into our LCAP as we continue to present that to the board in June to ensure that we meet our district goals.
And objections?
No objections. No
objections.
Information only. So with that, I wanted to thank you for your time and any questions regarding the plans.
Great. Do we have any public comments regarding the LCAP overview?
There were no public comments received.
Okay, turnover. I know, thank you for periodically updating us on status, and I have no objections to your presentation, but I'm happy to turn over the board to see if there's any polling on objections to the content.
Objectives.
We should actually have meetings on Friday nights more often.
Look at that.
We're less objectionable.
We're less about-
That was good. That was good.
Any comments or?
That was just a great presentation. I appreciate it. It was very clear and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Groves. And so there's your polling, 0 objections.
Have a great evening.
You too. Moving on to O, information item discussion, item 2, Paraeducator Pathway Pilot Program. We've been eager to actually hear about this. Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. How much you?
Trustee, President Wong, trustees, Superintendent Hildreth. I'm joined here today with Principal Justin Young from Willow High School, who oversees our adult education pathway. He's going to be joining me to present. I get the opportunity to introduce very principal that, you know, when I got here, I started brainstorming with him and he took over his school and was willing to pilot a program that was going to benefit not only his students, but our community. And selfishly, it was going to help HR try to fill some positions, full disclosure there. So our objective today and purpose is to provide an overview to the board and to our community of a pilot Paraeducator Pathway program, and to share what has been learned with this pilot and potential next steps. On the Mr. Young is going to take over and talk a little bit about his program that he has designed at his school site. Has he been able to jump on?
Thank you so much, Assistant Superintendent. Thank you, President Wong. and trustees and Superintendent Hildreth and community for this time to share about this pilot for our pathway, which we're looking forward to expanding. And so we created this pathway and this partnership between Washington Adult School and Human Resources because there's a need, like Assistant Superintendent Panu had said, to, of course, fill our positions, but also engage our community and our current students to provide them with these opportunities. And ultimately that goal of building that pipeline between our schools and community to retaining them. And the way to retain them is that long-term employment that they can have with WUSD. Next slide, please. So in this pilot pathway that we are looking forward to continuing to expand and grow, what we included was 3 major components. So number 1 was classroom instruction. And that was taught by one of our wonderful adult ed teachers, Ms. Kelly Laybrock. And so we looked at preparing students to look at EdJoin, how to apply on EdJoin, how to more importantly, write a resume, write a cover letter, and then submit those on EdJoin. What it looks like to be a paraprofessional. Why is the position so essential for our students in our district and in special education and special services in general? Then what's a day in the life look like? What does it mean, when a paraeducator arrives at 8 a.m. and then leaves at 3 p.m. And then also preparing for the paraeducator skills test. The next part of the training included completing and submitting important paperwork like your TB test. And then finally, what we're working on right now is that job shadowing aspect. So now you have this overview, now you've passed the skills test, you've created this amazing resume. Now let's get in the classroom and let's start shadowing and learning what it's like. Next slide, please. So we started with 12 students that were interested, and these 12 potential students included some current students in some of our other classes and pathways at our adult school, and then also some who were not already enrolled and just community members, which is great. Ultimately, 5 students completed those first 2 components that I had described on that previous slide of that class instruction, submitting paperwork, and now we're currently working on placing these students based on interest and need to job shadow for the final component before they get these jobs in the classrooms. Next slide, please. So we've learned a lot from this pilot that, like I said, we're looking forward to expanding. So one of the things that we want to do is 12 students is great, and ultimately hiring 5 employees is fantastic, but there's so many more positions open. And so we want to really increase outreach both digitally and in person to engage as many people as possible to fill these positions. We also want to provide a concrete timeline. So here's what it looks like. Here's how much time it is when you register, you enroll, to here's what the course looks like, a 5 or a 4-week course. Then you have this job shadowing opportunity, then employment. So what does that specifically look like? Maybe like a 6-week total commitment from you applying to you getting a full-time job. And then we also want to continue opportunities for our students in our other classes at Washington Adult School and in our other pathways to co-enroll and build on this as well. Next slide, please.
Wanted to talk while he's switching ahead. The timeline would be an overview, but we would also work with individual students as an HR team, because again, these are our non-traditional students and they may have some like maybe the job shadowing wouldn't work within a set schedule and what have you, but there would be some flexibility with the individual students as well. Sorry about that, Justin.
No, thank you. Next slide, please. So we, like I've stated, would love to continue to grow and offer additional courses and cohorts throughout the rest of the spring because the need is still there, and it's mutually beneficial for our community, our district, our students. And so the hope is we have 5 students now. We want to expand. We want to fill all those positions. There's also a number of other positions available, as we're all aware. So expanding the offerings, expanding the courses, so there's some commonalities and skills being built, and then also for the specialized positions as well. And we're looking at gaining additional outside materials to support those courses. And I just wanted to thank our human resources team, our directors at Support Washington Adult School, and our course instructor, Kelly Laybrock, who's done an amazing job. And trustees, I want to thank you for your support in this as well. And thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Justin. Really appreciate it. I'm going to turn it over to public comment if there are any.
No public comments.
And we'll turn it over to the board. I know this is of interest, and I actually feel like President Clerk of Venegas actually talked about this.
Right.
He's not here to hear it.
Right.
So,
I thought this
come to
was
life.
like,
It was his suggestion. So, but we will channel him. And any board comments, really great work, excited about the potential. I know it's a small number, but that's what it's a proof of concept, right? And I love the idea of just opening it up to other pathways of creating our own, right? Like hiring from within our community. And how do we advertise that? Because, we have that at our adult school.
Yeah, this is our
people.
Let's
So
talk about
how do we actually create that as a recruiting tool? So thank you for putting it together.
sounds a lot like a community workforce agreement.
It is like a community workforce agreement, but in this sense. So really appreciate that. So
No, I'm very proud of this. This is great. And good job, good work, guys, on this, because this is something that, while numbers may be small, it's something, and it's a start. And once you build upon that, it can grow. And I think that's what we need to see.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to honor our adult or individuals that are participating in adult education, because they're still trying to, better themselves, and what better way to have high quality individuals have an pathway to access our school district as employees and contributing to it.
Yeah. And I can appreciate earlier that I know a lot of adult education students are English language learners, and we were acknowledging the refugee situation before, but this is a pathway to employment within our districts to meet, again, language needs. We also had a priority about being culturally responsive. So I'm just excited about the potential for all of it. So thank you for that.
phenomenal. My piece would be saying, if, when these 5 finish, because we want them to get all the way through, it would be great to have them come to a board meeting.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and really build up that you are the first in this new pathway. And you are, the students who are now our employees who have really paved the way for us. And it would be great to honor them in that. And, 5 is a small number, but think about how many students that is directly impacting. Because these are folks who are working directly to support our children. And that is a huge, huge impact. And I think about things like, I don't know, is down the road something like bus drivers? That's another area where we struggle. Oh yes, I'm sorry. Sorry, you shared it. I was really listening. She was listening.
No, I mean it.
I heard you talk about the next. I heard you talk about the next steps. I'm sorry. I was looking at my slides too, and you're speaking and going over the numbers and things. So there you go. Perfect. Well done.
No problem. I know that the slides are wordy, so no, thank you.
Yeah, so excellent job of reinvigorating our adult education programs.
Exciting.
And just from an equity standpoint, it's exciting to do. So, okay.
Yep.
All right, very good.
President Wong, if we may for just a second move back to, in honor of Women's History Month, I wanted to make a shout out, and I forgot to do this when we were talking about it.
You what?
Miriam Sharik, she goes by Zoe. She's a senior at River City High School. The only one, boys or girls, to make it to the States. state wrestling match.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
So-
and I believe a couple years ago, we had another girl. She was also the only one to make it to the state. So,
that's
you
great.
know, our girls are dominating in the wrestling field, and I just want to point that out. It's very important to give praise, especially in this, sport, which hasn't been typically a female sport. It's been traditionally men or boys. So I just wanted to call that out and give her props for all of her hard work.
I would say to the 6 young women then too on the wrestling team who are pioneers, right?
Yes.
So in this, so this traditionally male field, so, okay, that's good, thank you. Anything, any other acknowledgements? Acknowledge my husband for being a good ally. All the things I do, okay. Future board agenda items, the project labor grant is not finally scheduled for March 10th. Thank you for your patience
Thank you.
there. We will also have a update on universal TK and board evaluations. And then we, trustee Barnes wanted to add the SRO history on there. Anything else for the good of the order?
I'd like to, but it doesn't have to be its own agenda item. It can be within discussions that we have. Just reiterate the vaccine numbers to have an update on that. What our vaccination numbers are, and maybe our COVID clerks, since they're not as busy, thank goodness, knock on everything. Our numbers have been looking pretty good. So maybe they can help in those efforts because I know it's a heavy lift, but just want to reiterate that.
Okay.
Otherwise, nothing for me.
Nothing else? Okay. With that, the agenda is dispensed before 7 PM.
Yay.
All right, thank you. All right.